Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I'm here with Ben and Amy Wright. They are with Center State Craftsmen located in Nashville, Tennessee. Really excited to have you guys on the podcast here and to hear your story. I hear it starts with a little bit of music. It ends up with some high-end custom luxury homes. So really excited. Welcome to Builder Stories, Ben and Amy.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Eric.
Thank you.
Yeah, so why don't you kick us off with a little bit of background? I'm curious to hear more about the music from Nashville. But yeah, how did you guys get into construction? What led you to start this business?
Well, we moved to Nashville in 2003, chasing the dream of touring, playing music, writing songs, stuff like that. And we did that for 7 years, something like that. And in 2009, when the economy shifted, we decided to come off the road and bought our first house, not with the intent of ever becoming a general contractor, but just for ourselves to fix up and see what we could do with it and have a place to live.
And move out of the band house.
And move out of the band house and all that. So it took us like 3 years to, save up money and spend it on a project and over again until we got everything done. And then we decided to sell it. And I remember we made $86,000 over the course of a 3-year investment. And I thought we hit the big time, man, So we started flipping other houses and here we are, full blown contractor.
Nice. So what year did you officially start the contracting business?
Officially,
well, this Center State Craftsmen on paper didn't officially start till 2016, but we had an LLC that we were flipping and building spec homes under.
Okay.
From I think 2010 or 12, maybe. I think 2012 that started.
Nice.
So
we were keeping that work kind of just to ourselves and just, moving in a house, living in it for 2 years, improving it and flipping it and then moving again. And then we started to have people around us who were looking at what we were doing and, they wanted us to work on their house. And before we know, here we are.
Yeah.
Nice. So you actually, you lived in the homes while you did all the work and then would basically sell it and buy a new home and kind of move into that. So that was kind of like I guess that's like it's like an investment, but it's also your homestead there.
Yeah. But we did full investments. I mean, we built, plenty of spec homes that we didn't live in and,
Okay.
and flips as well that after we stayed put for a while, in a house, we would keep flipping or whatever. So, but yeah, we definitely, our primary residence, we did that just to get that tax-free capital gains,
Yeah, absolutely. So 2016, you decided to kind of move more in the GC, kind of doing the actual kind of contracting for others versus your own investments and flipping.
That's right.
How did you?
The word. Sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say the word just got out among friends, friends and their family that we could do this kind of thing. And, it started with simple stuff like building a fence or a deck or tiling a backsplash or something like that, to where we are today.
So so it started off kind of just like word of mouth referrals. I mean, at what point did you realize you needed to actually like invest in marketing and the website and kind of more of the brand and the, all of the marketing efforts there?
If I can speak to that, I think, Ben for a while was straddling doing these projects and then also working part-time at Home Depot and stocking the shelves and, being the go-to there. And I think realizing that, we wanted the freedom of working for ourselves, that we would have to get our ducks in a row and make a genuine, authentic go at it.
Yeah, and it was pretty early on where we had the realization that you're talking about. We didn't, of course, out of the gate, the money just wasn't naturally there to spend on marketing or a cool website or anything like that. So those are the things that we had to work up to, but we recognized that it was needed. Primarily because we early on hired a coaching group, which is where we met you, was through Tom Reber's organization, the Contractor Fight. That was very instrumental in opening our eyes into what running a real business is like, and the ins and outs of it, and the things that we need and don't need, and so on.
Yeah, no, it's I think those early years are definitely the hardest, like in figuring out how to, it's like how to save enough to be able to turn and invest it into, the right things that will bring in more. I mean, so it sounds like kind of, you burning kind of both ends of the candle there, working the part-time, or doing, I don't know if it's part-time or full-time at Home Depot, but then, also working on
Yeah.
this. I mean, it's like having two jobs to, that definitely can be very tough, but that can also help subsidize, the income and make sure that the bills get paid while you're still building up the business in those early years. So, it's kind of one of those necessary evils, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
It's rationalizing like what, you come into your own business and you're teetering on that line of scarcity versus abundance, and where do you spend those dollars and what's going to make your needle move the most. So yeah, all that's wrapped together.
Yeah. And so what were both of your roles like kind of early on? How did you guys sort of think about dividing and conquering? Like Amy, were you also full-time on this, or did you also have other work, or?
No, I was a skeptic, and I was in the restaurant industry when we got off the road. So I've been in the restaurant industry then for like a little over a decade. And I was just kind of observing and seeing how Ben was navigating and realizing, okay, I think he needs help in the office. So there's a point where, we had to have that conversation, like, as a husband and wife, is it going to be fruitful? Can we work together? Can we do this? And, what can I bring to the table that is going to complement what Ben's already doing?
And
Sure.
you joined full time about 2 years ago, right?
A little
A
over.
little over 2 years ago. So it's still relatively new with her.
Still got water back behind the ears.
Well, she's brought a ton of value to what we do. I don't know what the official title is, for Amy, but she's like the customer liaison. She's the IT department. She's HR, and
Really terrible HR.
Nice. So Ben, like early on, I mean, how did you manage all of the, again, as entrepreneurs, right? Like we're just constantly putting on every hat that needs to get done. Like, how did you focus your time, and what did you, kind of feel was like the most pressing, best use of your time when you were able to focus on the business?
That's a good question. The short answer is I just wasn't ever afraid to work. Like you just got to do what you got to do to provide for your family. It wasn't always the smartest decisions. Like there definitely were times that I was putting out a fire that really wasn't my problem to be dealing with. Like now I know there are clear boundaries that, as much as we love our clients and appreciate our clients, some of their fires are not ours to put out. Some of
Yeah,
their problems are not ours to solve. Especially if they start operating outside of our processes and our guidance and try to take things on themselves or start quote doing their own research or whatever, and which we're starting, hopefully weeding as we grow, we keep weeding those clients out to where we're, working with our avatar client, the ones that we create in our head and what we see, you know.
sure. So at what point did you, like, were you also doing the work in the field, or did you sub that out, use trade partners?
Yeah. Man, I didn't have trade partners until I would say
Yeah.
20. Well, I guess I
You
had
had it
trade
before
partners in
that,
2016. Yeah,
but you also wore the tool belt.
yeah, I put the tool belt on. I didn't take my tool belt off till probably 2020, maybe 21. And that
Okay.
was hard for me, man, because that was like, I love being with the guys. I think we all do who start in this business. Maybe not all, but a lot of us who start with, one, a solopreneur and in a truck and a tool belt and all that. And then you start networking and meeting other people. And then you got guys that work every day for you. And it's just, it's sitting on the job site on a bucket, eating lunch, laughing together, all that stuff. That was really hard for me. I felt guilty because the guys, I got some young guys. They're great. I say young, they're younger than me. I mean, I guess they're 10 years older than when I first met them. So maybe not young anymore, but, they got, they're just full of energy and vigor and they want to work, and when I was their age, I wanted to work the 60 hours a week, and I don't want to do that anymore, but they'll work, 6 10-hour days. The only day they take off is Sunday. And it was hard for me to just, and I go through seasons. Sometimes I'm really good at it. Sometimes I'm not, but it's hard for me to just like, all right, man, 4:30, I'm going home. I'm gonna do a little bit of paperwork or whatever, and then go to the gym, take care of myself, and that's I come in and out of season of that. But when my mind's clear and we're firing all cylinders, that's the important thing to me. And I'm trying to get away from get back to where I'm only working, if at all, on Saturdays. I'm only available till lunchtime. After that, then it's house stuff, family stuff, So
Yeah.
that's a tricky balance for me. But we have all subs in the field. I've got one project manager and then Amy and I, and trying to figure out what the next seat in the bus is that we need to fill. Is it a punch list guy, someone who is, that is a craftsman that works for us and not just a sub, or is it another PM? We're not sure yet, but we got to figure that out.
Sure. I see people all the time kind of with that same struggle, right? I mean, like, it's the craft that got you into it. That's your passion. Like, it's what you want to be doing. And like to take that tool belt off can be a very, very hard thing for people. And, and sometimes people are like, look, I want to keep wearing the tool belt, but I got to find a business partner, somebody to come in who can handle the business side. But like, at the end of the day, like, you have to be able to have that focus on the business, not just kind of doing the day-to-day working in it, but it's like, a way to sort of figure out how do you get the best of both worlds? How do you make sure that you can operate and grow the business, but you can still deliver that great customer experience? And, a lot of times it comes down to building out a team and getting the people around you that you can trust and delegate. And, sounds like you got that with, with obviously with the project manager coming on, sort of probably able to help sort of a little bit more in the field than lets you kind of step back into the office. And then obviously now having Amy here for the last couple of years I'm sure has been a tremendous help.
Yeah, for sure. It's been great.
So, I'm curious, like, what did your first projects look like, and how has that sort of transformed over the years for you?
Man, it's funny if I dig up old photos, this is part of the reason why I don't put the tool belt on. There's so many more skilled guys than me. I'm not the expert on the hands-on anymore. You know what I mean? These guys that I have working for us, Carlos, Alex, and Orlando and David, they're so much more skilled than what I was even when I was doing it every day. So if I look back at those photos, it was built to last, but it didn't have the fine detail and the fine finesse that these guys have. These guys are they're fantastic at what they do. You ought to see this hood that we're building in this high-end kitchen remodel right now. It goes from the countertop to the ceiling. It has these curves on it. It's all going to be stucco and
old world.
Man, it's beautiful. And there's no way I could have done that. So that's the importance of like the who, not how, right? I mean, if someone handed that to me and been like, hey, build this, I wouldn't know what to do. But I got the team and I can coach them and encourage them and all that.
So you mentioned earlier that, at some point early on, like you had found Tom Reber in the contractor fight, and, I know Tom really well. I mean, I learned a lot from that group as well. Like how would you describe like where your business is at sort of before you found that? And then like, what transformations did you find, that sort of ended up bringing you?
Oh, so many transformations. I mean, again, when we first got into that group, when Ben first got into that group, I was skeptical then because it's like, you see these guys and they're, calling each other and I'm like, what is this about? Like, how's this going to achieve anything? And then realizing, that they're holding each other accountable, that they're pointing out like calling each other out for their weaknesses to like let's step up. Let's let's talk about this. Why aren't you doing this? How come you're not, you know, I don't know, implementing this A, B, and C? And, I think that the only way that we can grow is when we allow that door to open and we find the people that we want to be more like and, press into that. And I think, coaching's so important for that reason alone. Like it's easy to write it off because you're like, oh, it's so expensive, but what is the cost going to yield you? And how's it going to change you? And how's it going to better everybody around you? It's not just about you. It's like it's gonna help your clients, it's gonna help your team. It's gonna help like you decide what forms you're gonna use, like job tread or something like that, to, you know, skill up your business and, have better things in place, be more organized. It's just more well-rounding. Sorry, that was a long
Yeah.
answer, but
No,
The
I mean, I totally
one-
agree. I mean, yeah, go ahead, Ben.
As I said, the one thing I wanted to say about with when we found Tom, I was actually building an addition for Derek. You know Derek as well, right?
Yeah.
The one coach over there. So we've been friends with Derek for a number of years, and I was building an addition for him. And I remember seeing his life change from like the guy who like mows lawns and mulches and trims bushes and stuff like this, and own a garden center, to where he's just what he is in his businesses today, you know. And when I've seen that transformation in him, he was telling me about Tom's group, and I was standing in just a dried in edition on the phone with Steve Shinholzer, which was Tom's partner early on, talking about this. And I went home and talked to Amy about it, and back then it was $69 a month. And Amy was like, how are we going to afford that? That's where we were as a business at that point. Like $70 a month, man, that was going to make or break us, but it was, obviously it was well worth it. Now in hindsight, you go, man, $70. I don't ever want to take for granted that $70 isn't a big deal anymore. But, back then it definitely was, and,
depends where you're
now,
coming from too.
right. It's all relative. So like if someone's listening to this right now and considering coaching or whatever, find a group that you feel fits, and make it happen to be a part of a community that encourages you, that wants to see you win, that loves you, that, all these things that encourage. If you're a husband wife team, that really, like wrap their arms around you as a team to be like, we want to see you succeed. That was huge for us. Big game changer.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, when you think about coaching and I think so many people that you just don't know what you don't know. And I think that's where, again, being in the room with others who have been there, who have done that, hiring a coach who has literally helped, countless others go through those similar challenges, it can be really, really helpful. And I think just, just accelerating the business. But like, I think the thing that like a lot of people don't realize and think about is like, it is that support system that you're getting. It's that community of people. And like Amy said, like, it's probably a little bit strange. Like, well, why is my husband, having all these phone calls with these other random contractors? Like, how is that going to benefit you? But then like, when you start realizing like how supportive they are and how like they're literally like practicing what they're preaching and training, to develop those skill sets, like it becomes so much more apparent that like, man, like, without this group, like how else would you do that? How else would you find the ability to learn and develop the skill sets? I mean, you can only read so many books and watch so many YouTube videos, but like, being able to actually practice and like, I know the contractor fight and the groups over there. I mean, like the role playing is a huge, kind of fundamental piece
Mm-hmm.
of how are we going to help each other? And I think that's like some of the things that like people just don't realize how valuable that can be.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things too. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in business. I don't know if it was my dad or who I was talking to when I was considering joining Tom's group. And they said, the best athletes in the world still have coaches. Well, I'm not I'm not at that point, definitely not the best contractor in the world. So I could probably use a coach then if Kobe Bryant could use a coach, or, Tiger Woods or whatever, then I'm probably due for a coach,
Yeah.
So
I also really appreciate, Tom's had a huge focus on just like the mindset, right? And like, it's like we get in our
Mhm.
own ways and we put we have all this trash that's in our head that like, causes us to kind of just be blinded by like, what is the best way forward, or what is the right decision, or how should I feel about these things? I mean, I'm curious, Amy, how would you say you saw, Ben sort of mind shift change as he became more and more involved in this group? Like, could you see like the impact of that?
Definitely confidence was probably number one because I mean, what contractor? I mean, the let's be honest. Like the field gets a bad rap sometimes. It's like it's like the one industry where someone can challenge and be like, well, where when you're asking this price for this quote, where are all those dollars being divvied up? And it's like you don't ask that of hardly any other occupation. So being able to tackle those questions that come in from clients, and see how his confidence developed, and he just knew his numbers better. He saw the vision more clearly. um it wasn't just like a fly by night, like let's try this out thing. It was like, okay, let's just do this.
Sure.
So I think that whole package is what won me over, and I was like, okay, well, I am seeing a completely different man here.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
great. How would you say, from a marketing standpoint, and I think you guys, you had also shared that like you've worked with the Contractor Growth Network. I mean, at what point did you invest in, the website and all of that? Was that, I assume you might have found Logan through the contractor fight too?
Yeah, yeah. Logan and I were in so when I first joined the program with Tom, they had Logan's dad, Steve, ran a kind of an extracurricular group. It was for guys. You had to meet certain criteria. It wasn't for guys who were just struggling to keep the doors open, because we were, hitting certain dollar amounts and trying to, just talk about higher level things, bigger, different problems, I guess is what I should say. So I met Logan through that, and he built a website for me. Years ago, I was trying to niche down just into hardwood floors, and it was just, I didn't like it. It was just too boring, But I had him build me a really cool website, and had all the bells and whistles and stuff, and it was great. And then I just was like, I can't focus just on that one thing, So that's when we opened it back up to general contractor, and then he built my new website for me, and that was when we met. I guess it was the final Mile High Profit Summit, is when we hired Logan's team to build us the newest website again. It's been great, man. People love it. It's easy to navigate. It's cool that he's just focused in on building websites for contractors. He doesn't build them for, an animal shelter and and whatever else. He's just focused on serving contractors, and I really think he's figured it out. And then you have, as the contractor, you still got to do your work. It's not like the website's a magic pill. It's just one piece of the puzzle, one tool.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and I've taken a look at your website. I mean, I think the thing that just immediately stands out is all of the stunning photos and the work that is like really showcased, front and center. It's like, let our work speak for itself, right? And like you really go deep
Mhm.
into these projects. And I feel like that's like something that, a lot of people don't figure out, like the value of professional photos and photography and videography. Like, I mean, man, like, photos worth 1,000 words, right? I mean, like it just like can go so far to really help showcase like what can you do? How can you transform someone's home into this like,
Yeah.
luxury, living environment? And like it's so I gotta believe, yeah, it's probably made a huge impact on helping you kind of educate and then convert, these customers.
It's cool because, like, especially the customers who are really serious, not just the ones that just Google you and call the number that pops up, but the ones that are maybe got a personal referral or something like that, and they go to your website. And like you said, I mean, they're already educated. Like the sale of the job is 50% done at that point. You know, a
Wow.
lot of times if they come through your website, it's yours to screw up, really, you know?
Now, have you? Would you say that like you've seen kind of over the years, like your ability to take on and to win larger projects has that been kind of a sort of just like a natural evolution as you've grown, or have you always taken on these high end projects?
No, it's grown as far as like the high end clients, that's grown for sure. Our ability to do them has, I mean, it's grown too because we're always getting better every day. But I, I think we shine on the big projects. You know, like my favorite is a whole house renovation where no one's living there. We just get the run of the mill, or not the run of the mill. We get the run of the house. We can work, 10 hours and no one's complaining that they got to make dinner and we're being noisy. It's great. We can just go in there and get it done. The smaller jobs, like we just did like a small 5x8 bathroom and it was awesome. The homeowners were great. We worked with an interior designer on that one. And I know some people don't like working with interior designers because they will muddy the waters apparently or whatever. I've never had that experience. The people we work with are fantastic, and I like that they handle, you know, ordering they order, like the one designer we work with, she orders all the pretty things. So that's one less thing we have to do. It's not our responsibility if it comes in broken, nothing like that, and then we just install it for them and make it pretty. But yeah, it's the growing into the higher end stuff definitely has been an evolution, and we're just, I mean, quite honestly, we're just starting, we're only a couple years into doing higher end work, and I believe this is just the beginning. And we've got a great team, great culture, great experience. We're always working on tightening it up, that
Sure.
experience for, I remember you talking about your experience with the pool you had put in,
Yep.
you know, and, I want to, we want to deliver, we want to deliver a good experience for our homeowners.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about like where are you attracting these clients? Like, how are they finding you? Is it still that word of mouth? Is it through the networking? I mean, have you been doing any ads, things like that? Like, where are the leads coming from for you?
They're coming from a few places, but the one that not surprises us the most, but, you don't think that a yard sign would do a whole lot, but a yard sign can do a whole lot.
Yeah.
So, we've gotten a lot of really wonderful clients from neighborhood jobs that we're working on. We'll try to, we'll ask permission, put the sign out there and leave it out there as long as we're on, and maybe even a little longer depending on if they're okay with, like, a couple weeks or so beyond the project being completed, if it's like a full-on addition and stuff like that. We've gotten a lot of clients that way. We've gotten a few through, um, you know,
Well, Google Ads has
Google Ads
been
has been good.
pretty decent. You have to weed out. There's a lot of tire kickers or whatever, but you just answer the phone, you serve them the best you can, and until you find out if it's a good fit or not, and you just, they move on, you move on. Um, for me, I'm a big networking guy. This is going back to the band days. When we were in the band, I was the quote manager or whatever. I was the guy booking everything, booking the tours. So I'm a big networker, and I think that's one of my superpowers. Um, so I network with, again, I know a lot of people don't like getting referrals from realtors because they think realtors are just helping their client find the cheapest person or whatever. You just got to find the right clientele
Mhm.
in anything. There are some realtors that would call me and, they need punch list stuff done. I'm probably not your guy. I'll do it. We got a certain day rate that we have to fulfill. And if you meet that by us changing some light bulbs and a doorknob, then we'll go do it. But that's usually not our client. But we have realtors that we get referral from all the time, but it's people who are looking for their forever home, kind of, mostly forever home or something they're going to be until the kids graduate or something like that.
Yeah. How have you found those realtors and those designers to network with? Because I think you're right. I think a lot of people really miss a great opportunity to go get in the right
Yeah.
room and try to like build those relationships. And sure, maybe not every realtor is the right clientele for you. And so like how have you identified, the right ones and figure out how to get in front of them?
Well, a lot of the realtor connections I have is from our days when we were building our own spec homes and we'd have open house. and we do some really good work. And so I'd get realtors that would reach out like, oh, I saw the staircase you had, because um or whatever, staircase or whatever, the whole job or whatever. And they would reach out, and I just keep their number over the years. That for realtors, that was the biggest one, I think. um for designers, that's calling, that's being persistent, calling,
Of course,
comment.
the one designer that we use quite a bit is one that we met in the early days when we needed someone to help us put, like a pretty package together because it was just kind of outside of our think box.
And she was kind of new, just like we were. She was kind of new as a interior designer, and quite honestly, now she owns probably the most recognizable interior design brand in Nashville. She worked for this family, and when the gentleman was getting older, I guess, I don't know the story, but I guess there wasn't anyone to pass it on to, or maybe the kids didn't want it or whatever, so he sold it to her because she was probably, I would imagine, the best performing designer on his team. So her and her sister bought it, and it's been, I mean, that brand has been in Nashville since 1946.
Wow.
So they work in with a lot of clients, a ton of people.
So marketing for us is a lot of connection and a lot of like boots on the ground and recognizing our neighborhood that we're in.
There are some things like I just had, my goal right now is to get into some architectural firms, not just designers. And of all things, there was a car accident at a red light that myself and this other guy saw, and we both stopped to help. And then as we were waiting for the first responders, we got talking, whatever, and he worked for this architectural firm, so we swapped info. And then a few weeks later, he texted me and was like, "Hey, every Friday we have a kind of a debrief in our office where we all just get together, have some drinks, talk about the whatever big job we're working on, and just kind of brainstorm together. And we try to invite a contractor every week, just to sit in with it and get to know them." And I thought, man, that's a really cool idea. So they invited me over that 1 week, and man, it was great. And they were working on it was supposed to be a $6 million house, and I think it crossed over $10 million that week with the additions and revisions or whatever. But they have a builder for that. But hey, we're, at least they have my number. We made a connection. If I need something of that, not of that scale, but anything over, I think he said their minimum is like a $600,000 project is where they feel like they can best serve people. So yeah, it was good. It was a good connection.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's like your average project or your ideal project these days?
The average, I would say, is right around 250 or something like that. Maybe average is probably 3. Yeah, high 2s, low 3s.
Most commonly, it's usually an addition.
Yeah, an addition.
And that's what it's been like the last couple. It's just and the one that we're getting ready to sign on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but then I have one in the wings, a project in the wings that if we get it, it's it could be anywhere from $3 to $4 million for that one project, because this girl bought her dream property and wants to build her dream house and a barn and a house for a house manager and all this stuff, so that could be, we hope that we get it. We do a lot of work for her already, but I'm sure she's going to talk to other people too.
Sure. So what's your sales process look like?
Well, we do the Shin Fu process, which for those that don't know, that's the sales process that we learned in Tom Lever's in the Contractor Fight, where we role play and all that. So we grab a phone call, or we get some photos first, from the homeowner of what we're looking at, what they want to do. We have a phone call, ask some good open-ended questions. Because, truthfully, yes, we want to sell jobs and we have to stay in business. But our approach, and this may be cliche or generic or whatever, but we truly want to sell from a service perspective. I don't want to sell someone something they don't need. I want to sell them what they want. You know what I mean?
Get to their why.
Yeah, really figure out. Really figure out what's the reason for this, and yeah, if their wants are fancy bells and whistles, then I'm more than happy to do it. But if their wants are, we have a couple that we're just wrapping up a whole house project with right now, and they're I didn't looking back, I didn't ask all the deeper questions or whatever, so I didn't find out the level of appliances they wanted. Thankfully, on that in our contract, we don't provide appliances because that's just a phone call. I mean, I'll make the phone call for them for the delivery, but I don't want to get involved with it. I don't want the warranty thing. I don't want anything to do with it. And thankfully, that's in the contract because they were buying like Wolf and Sub-Zero. I mean, like I wasn't ready for that because this was in a pretty nondescript little neighborhood. I didn't expect that at all. But so the process after we get the photos and have some conversations, then we'll do an on-site consultation with them. And
enter them in job tread.
Yeah, and Amy does a good job. Once we get the info, we use job tread, of course, and put in there. And it's so nice to just like have everything. Once we sign a contract, it's so nice to have a place to put all the files, all the photos. They can log in through there. Like we just received a real touching message last night. Some folks that we thought maybe we lost the job or delayed the job or whatever. Her father passed away, and so they were dealing with that. And right before he passed, he gave them a chunk of money to help with this project. So that was a pretty touching message to get. Last evening through Job Tread. And so we'll, it's that also goes back to, man, this job of like getting in people's homes and getting in their business, man.
It's personal.
It's personal.
Yeah, we don't take it lightly because it's like you don't know what you're going to run into. You don't know what they're dealing with. You don't know, what their challenges are, what their passions are until you like you're in their space. It should be considered sacred from every contractor, from every trades point. It should be a sacred place that you are entering. Remove those shoes. Like be a little extra thoughtful. Take a breath. Slow down a minute.
Yeah.
What I hear you guys saying is like you've in order to kind of really sell those much higher end, much larger projects, it's not about this like transactional sale. I'm just trying to get the sale done. It's you're really getting to know these people, building that deep relationship with them so that, that they feel like you truly understand their desires and what they really want, not just like, what they need. It's like, what does your ideal dream world look like and how can we work towards that? And, again, it sounds like with that one lady, I mean, maybe, today wasn't the right time, but, because of that relationship you built with them, like when the right time, came about, they reached out to you all because they felt like they had a good connection, a good relationship. And, I think that really is a very important thing for people to learn is that, it's, if you want to sell the larger jobs, like it's not just a one call close, it's really doing the work and getting in to get to know them and building out, the job in the right way so that you can, win them over with the relationship and not just, the price isn't everything to everyone, and I think that's hard for people to realize.
That's funny you bring that up about the transactional stuff. Cause like I feel like I'm pretty personable and I connect with people real easily. We were just in Switzerland, Austria, and France for 2 weeks. And while we were away, we had a deck that we had a demo. She had a friend who could build it, but he just couldn't demo it for whatever reason. And the HOA was getting on her about it, and all this stuff. So I was like, I mean, in my world, it's a deck demo. It doesn't need to be a big discussion. Here's what it's going to cost, and that's it. Well, when we got back from our vacation, my project manager told me that she said that she doesn't ever want to speak to me again because I was just all about business. And I was like, what? I've never heard that in my life. And both Amy and Jared was like, that doesn't sound like you. And I was like, I mean, unless I was having a bad day, which even when I am, I'm not like that to people, but I don't know. I guess I just rubbed her the wrong way, which is kind of really funny.
Well, it was also years ago that she said she met you.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to put together. Like, I don't remember this lady at all, so I don't know if she has me mistaken for someone. I don't know. I just don't know.
But either way, it's a good reminder. Like, okay, you know what? How are we showing up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really great. Do you you also mentioned earlier, I guess you're now working with Mike Claudio and Win Rate. Like how's that gone, and sort of what led you to join his group, and how has that coaching, impacted you all?
Well, we've only had 2 sessions so far because we signed up right before we left for Switzerland, which we probably should have just held off and waited till we got back, but we were excited to do it. Um, after we did the war room program in the contractor fight,
Which is
which
really
was awesome.
beneficial.
Yeah, it was outside of when I first joined Tom's group. That was probably the most influential moment of my career, was being in that call. We had calls 2 times a month with a group of 10 guys who are just, man, we formed a brotherhood like will
Yeah.
last forever, I believe. But once that expired and we were trying to debate, what we wanted to do, the biggest thing for us is I really wanted that one-on-one coaching. Like, the group coaching is cool and serves for a really long time. But we just wanted to get into one-on-one coaching. And again, we've only had two sessions so far, but the direct homework that is just
Curated.
customized for us and where we're at, I think is going to be a real game changer. And there's some really, there's, our coach, grew a $30 million roofing business. He grew it to $30 million and realized it was chaos. So he burned it down to $4 million and then built it back up to 13 million efficiently, and maybe beyond. I don't know where he's at now or what his involvement is, but that was the story he told us,
Sure.
And
So-
when he was describing that, if it's okay, when he was describing that, we realized, you know what, we would like, for, at least through my eyes, I would rather have a very clean and smooth business at a lower income bracket than a very high, chaotic, messy, screwball business. So that was kind of like a cool awareness. Like, okay, you know what, we want to do it. Like, let's take what we have and do it really well and clean it up, and then we'll grow from there. So
Yeah, it's such
Yeah,
a
so
great point there. Thinking about, like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like this is your life as well as, the business, and it's like you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that, like, is sustainable and that you're enjoying the journey. And if things feel like they're spinning out of control, even if you're making more money, it's burning you out, much faster than, like, it really isn't sustainable. And so I think it does, sometimes pay to slow down, rethink, kind of gather your bearings, build that foundation, and then you can push forward and grow it. And hopefully, and it's a much more controlled manner, so it sounds like that was kind of a good
Yeah.
epiphany that, like, it's not always best to just keep the foot on the gas and grow.
Yeah.
Like, we got to make sure we do it, very methodically.
That's right.
yeah,
That's
for
right.
sure.
Well, when you think about your business and obviously you guys you've grown it tremendously. I mean, where do you see the biggest opportunities for improvement?
I think right now it's as we're growing, it's getting more clear on each of our individual roles, so we're not overlapping. That's one of the things, like, since Amy and I are connected at the hip, there are things that bleed over into, from my lane to her lane, or her lane to my lane, or and how to handle that. Like, we just talked about this earlier today. Like, I don't sometimes, like, if she comes to me with something, like, hey, did you do this, and this? And I said this morning, I said, look, I don't work for someone because I don't want a boss. You know what I mean? Which isn't the right response to her. You know what I mean? She's just making sure that I'm doing stuff, and taking care of our clients. And, we have a saying, time kills deals. If I'm not responded to someone in a timely manner, that's fine. They'll go find someone else,
Yeah.
in their mind, it's fine, not in ours. But, so I think that is the thing that we're going to work on. That's our newest assignment from our coach, is, like, clearly defining our roles, so I think that's probably, that's the biggest thing. We had our first hire, our project manager was our first hire probably 5 months ago, 6 months ago, something like that. And,
Wonderful.
yeah, it's been great. I was so nervous, man. I don't know how many people you have now, but you've grown like a weed, man. And, and that first hire was, I was a little nervous, not because I don't know how to create a good culture or I don't know how to take care of people, but for them, like if he's gonna leave what he's doing and come here, and then in 3 months I go, sorry man, it's not working. That really
Yeah.
sucks, you know? So, but now I'm just like, we're ready, you know? So if anyone's listening and is looking, you know, in Nashville area or whatever, hit us up because we're growing and
I'm gonna link up with winners.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having those clearly defined roles and responsibilities like that is so important that like you can really like know, you know, what lane is everybody in, making sure that everybody's doing what they need to do, you know, and I think that will help you continue to hire and build out the team when like you understand like what are the roles that, you know, are currently being filled and where are the gaps. And then you can also plan to hire at the right times where you see, you know, kind of when you sort of model out your year and say, man, like, you know, we see this growth coming, but like maybe we don't have the horsepower in this area to actually, you know, achieve those outcomes that we're shooting for. Like that helps you to start planning to get those people into place. But it absolutely, it takes a long time to find the right people. And I think so many times people feel overwhelmed that they rush into hiring and they often will hire the first person that walks in the door, you know, and a lot of times that's not the best case. You know, your friends, your family, your neighbors, like, you know, whoever it may be, like, you know, God bless them for offering to come join and help. But like, you know, are they the right person with the right skill set, the right experience that's going to like truly, you know, help you grow the business, or are they just sort of plugging a hole that, you know, may or may not, you know, ultimately solve that problem for you? I think it's about being very intentional with your hiring. And you know, it can be nerve wracking, man. I know that first hire, you know, even your first couple, like, oh boy, what's this going to do to our cash flow? I mean, this thing called payroll, you know, we can't miss it. Like, you know, it can definitely be scary, but it sounds like you've already kind of really seen the fruits of having that, you know, additional, you know, person on the team and like how it can really free you up and free up, you know, the business to be able to take on more projects and ultimately like not lose control.
Yeah, and on the tail of what you just said too, like we're realizing, you know, where the missing pieces are, and that not having those pieces often costs a person time and money.
Yep.
And if you have that person in place to fill that role, the time and the money keep going and the machine moves a little bit faster and smoother.
Yep.
And so I think that's what we're, you know, we're starting to see very clearly where we still have gaps. And, you know that if we have that person in that space, it's going to be less running around to the store, less, you know, apologies for things that were missed, you know, less time waiting on the guys to come back from having to pause to go do A, B, and C. You know, it's just a smoother transaction overall, and it's better for us and better for the client.
Absolutely. So I'd be remiss to not ask, you know, obviously, you know, you guys are, you know, married and, you know, also working together as, you know, as business partners here. Like, how do you manage the work-life balance, that kind of the relationship? I mean, it sounds like maybe Ben might've been a little snappy this morning, you know, like how do you guys sort of, how do you work together and really kind of, you know, protect the marriage, you know, when, you know, you're also in the business together?
Well, it's funny you asked.
We-
it was real. It was real today. You know, it was real, but it was at the same. You know, we love each other, and we know that. You know, I think a lot of times we just have to. We set those date nights. We're learning how, like being in Switzerland and actually going on vacation. Not that everyone has to go to Switzerland, but you should. But being away, we realized, you know, sometimes we let work rule us. We let work become our everything, and that's only a portion of who we are as people. Like we've got so much more to talk about. We've got, you know, our end all be all is not work. And despite what society will tell us that we have to work to the grind and stuff like that, like I just feel like there's so much more in life. There's so much more to enjoy. There's so much more in our relationship, and even working aside of each other, you know, having those date nights, having those times where we choose not to talk about work, like don't say the word, you know. We're just learning to turn it off.
Who's better at not talking about work?
You. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I know that. I know that.
Yeah. It's funny, you know, so going back to like music days, when I met Amy, I was just her guitar player. We weren't dating, we weren't anything like that. I was just her guitar player. So we've worked together ever since we met, you know. So it's there's now in the later years, there's way more good times than rough times, you know.
Mhm.
And the rough times get shorter and shorter too,
They
you
do.
know. Um, but yeah, it's Amy's the one that she just gave her little talk, which was really nice, but but it's hard for her at the end of the day. Like honestly, man, like it can wait at 5:30. Like if that, like I want 5:30 to be my me working overtime. You know, at this point, it's not always true, but that's what I want. But it's easier for me just to be like, I'll handle this tomorrow. And Amy's like, no, we got to send this one more quote, one more this, or did you respond to so and so? Hey, it can wait. You know, it can wait. But so it's probably a good balance, because if we went with how laid back I am certain times, we probably would not close as much work either.
It's where grit meets boundary, and that's a hard line to toe. And
Yeah.
you know, I think we have enough opposites that, you know, we're trying to find that, like, where's that cohesive point between having the grit and having the turnoff
Yeah.
of the day.
Well, it sounds like you really complement each other well, and I think I probably resonate more with Amy. Like one more quote, one more email, one more thing that I gotta do, and I struggle to get home every day. I know I need to work on that. My wife would certainly appreciate me showing up before dinner's
Mm.
over, but it's something that I think again, like you said it best. Like we both love each other, and we know that and I think being able to have the just that the communication, and I think early on, you guys sort of probably sounds like maybe your battles or whatever you want to call them, like, drug out a little bit longer, but like when you can sort of learn to work together to like, always remember that, like, at the end of the day, like, you got to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like their intention was not, to do whatever might have happened that went wrong. It was, there were good intentions underneath it. And it's like, you got to just be able to have that open, honest communication. Like, don't beat around the bush. Like, hey, here's what I saw. Here's how I felt. What was your perspective? Like, oh, okay, I can see that. Like, just being able to kind of like have the conversation, get it out there, and then move on. I think the worst thing that can happen is when,
Yep.
People hold grudges, or they just like, they just assume that like someone else sort of knew what happened, or from their perspective, how they should have done it differently. And it's like, communication is so, so important. And I think that, you guys
Yeah.
being able to model that, just with your relationship will really help you continue to grow the business as you bring more people in, to have those conversations. Because sometimes you do have to have the hard conversations. You do have to give the feedback, and give that, that perspective that, again, when we're all in our day to day, we got our heads down and we're just charging ahead. Like, look, some other people could give us a third party kind of, vantage point that might really help us. And, you just got to be open to that, and know that it's all coming from a good place.
Yeah,
Right
that's
on.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I kind of just as we wrap up here, like where do you guys want to take the business? Like what's the 5-10 year, vision here? What's the end goal?
Well, is it okay if I?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're recently kind of honing in our why again, and like things that mean a lot to us. And we partner with a nonprofit that pulls on our heartstrings on a regular basis. And it's like something that we've committed to for a few years now. And we really want to keep growing what we can give to that. Um, that ministry that we give to, it's called Mission of Truth, and they not only help with um, orphans in Haiti, but they also started doing stuff in the backyard of Tennessee with shutting down and breaking apart sex trafficking. And so with our why in place, we want to grow so we can give more. Because we know that, we can only give so much after we do the bills and stuff like this, but we also believe in profit first. I don't know if you ever heard of that book,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something that, well, with profit first, there's another one. What's that book about?
The Richest Man in
The
Babylon.
Richest Man in Babylon. If you've not read that, that's a good one to read. But the combination of those two is kind of where our why is, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I serve on the board of directors for that organization. So it's it's pretty close to us. But as far as like the growth of the business and stuff like that, and I love. So we have we do a little bit of, well, a few things. We have some short-term rental properties. We have a couple cabins out in the Smoky Mountains and one here in Nashville, and then we have this business, and the short-term rental stuff has been cool, but we're actually, trying to sell one cabin right now and maybe even exit all that altogether. I'm not sure yet, but I love building our business here. I love building the culture. It's small, it's only 3 of us, but I can.
And our trades partners.
Yeah, and our trades our trades partners, they're just not on payroll, but they're just as much family as everybody else, So the goal of growing this, I don't know exactly what the dollar amount is. I see like the top line is, but I want to grow a business that has a great culture. I want to have a vision big enough that everybody who's working inside this organization can feel like they can attain their goals,
And dreams,
and dreams and stuff like that. And I don't know exactly what the finish. I don't know exactly what that is, I guess is what I'm saying. And then eventually I want to sell. I would love to sell the business to our number one guy, or maybe make it an employee owned thing. And as we exit, we don't have children. We've been married 26 years. We don't have children to leave it to or whatever. So maybe we just grow a really great team here and turn it into an employee owned business, or, I'm just not sure yet, but
Yeah.
we're just getting started. I know.
We'll figure it out.
Well, that's, I certainly think, just the desire to build a great business and to, again, have that lifestyle that you all get to love, and you get to wake up every day, work together, enjoy helping others. You can, contribute to a great cause. I mean, like, that is the plan, the vision, the goal, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, or that there has to be anything more than that. I think at the end of the day, like that in and of itself is, your vision and your desire, and then that's your why. That's what you're passionate about. And I think that will attract so many other people who are also passionate about that and want to make a meaningful contribution and want to be in a place, as you said, that is like family, and I think those are the things that, like, I've learned that, like, you can't just pay people to be passionate. Like, paying someone a salary, I mean, that's just table stakes this day and age, right? Like, if you really want to unlock people's potential, you got to tug at their heartstrings. You got to figure out like what they really care about, and like what is, their goal for this life and for this world that we live in. Like, what do they want to do? And then how do you set them up where every day they're getting to make a meaningful, progress towards that goal of theirs, and to feel like they are contributing. And, I think it sounds like you guys are well on your way to creating that. And, I'm a big, I love the family thing. Like, my dad's our CFO. I mean, he's kind of on his way out, sort of just, ready to just go kick it and retire and everything. But like, at the end of the day, like, when you can make it work, like, the fact that, like, again, you get to wake up and you get to work together and this healthy, relationship and this growing business. I mean, like, what else could you ask for in this world, right? Like, so many times people, they don't get along with their spouse, or they can't work with their spouse. And like, they have all this time away and they've got these 2 different lives, like, more power to you when you can mold them together. And, again, I realize that's not for everybody, and it's, it's definitely, it takes a special, special bond and relationship to be able to do it. But like, man, like, I'm so glad and so happy to see how you guys are building this together, and you truly are happy and doing what you want to do. It's not that you have to do it. It's like, this is what you want to do every day. And, you really can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah. And I'll throw it out there too. We're no experts in marriage. I mean, we've been married 26 years, been through our ups and downs and stuff. If there's other couples that are working together that are listening to this and need someone to chat with or whatever, want to share experiences or, tools from our toolbox or whatever, send us an email.
Hit us up.
Yeah. Just Ben at centerstatecraftsman.com.
And I'm there too.
Or Amy at centerstatecraftsman.com. So
yeah. Hey, well, look, I appreciate that. And, I'm also happy to connect if anyone reaches out to me as well. But, look, it's been an honor having you guys on, just getting to see kind of behind the scenes, how you're building this. Really, it's cool that we're able to just be a little fly in the wall, just be your partner in this whole thing. But like, to see you guys continuing to build and grow is really exciting. And I can't wait to see, as you keep building that team out, because I do think that that's going to like help you just continuing to achieve your goals, to as you said, kind of, earn more so that you can contribute more to Mission of Truth. I mean, great cause, but really appreciate you guys coming on, spending this time with us, and sharing a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This has been great. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, well, you guys have a good one. See you later.
See you.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.